Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to this special media briefing on Prime Minister's forthcoming visit to Nepal on 16th of May. I have the honor of having with us today Foreign Secretary Shri Vinay Mohan Quatra. Joining him is Joint Secretary North Shri Anurag Srivastava, who handles the Nepal desk. You would have seen the press release of yesterday giving the broad contours of Prime Minister's visit to Nepal. I would now request Foreign Secretary, sir, to give us a sense of, to give you a sense of the visit, and after that we will take questions. So thank you, and so over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this special briefing on Prime Minister's upcoming visit to Nepal. Prime Minister Shri Modi will be traveling to Lumbini, Nepal this Monday on 16th of May. The visit of Prime Minister to Lumbini, the birthplace of Lord Buddha, takes place on the auspicious occasion of Buddha Jayanti. This is indeed a celebration of the time-honored civilizational and people-to-people linkages between India and Nepal, which, as we all know, forms a very strong foundation of our close and multifaceted relationship. Mutual visits to places of shared cultural and civilizational heritage further reinforce these linkages. You would also recall that Prime Minister Sheikh Bahadur Deuba of Nepal has visited India from 1st to the 3rd of April 2022. The fact that a return visit is taking place in such close succession is a reflection of the closeness of our high-level exchanges as well as of the upward trajectory in our mutually beneficial partnership. This will be Prime Minister Modi's 5th visit to Nepal as the Prime Minister and his first visit to Lumbini. Prime Minister's brief visit packs in a tight schedule and many engagements. The visit will start with darshan at the famous Maya Devi temple, which lies at the very heart of Lumbini. The temple marks the site of the birth of Lord Buddha, which is established through the epigraphic evidence provided by the pillar erected by Emperor Ashoka, commemorating his visit there over 2 millennia ago, in 249 BC. It may also be recalled here that Prime Minister had gifted a Bodhi tree sapling from Bodh Gaya to this temple during his visit to Nepal in November 2014. Prime Minister will thereafter visit the adjacent monastic zone in Lumbini, where he will participate in the Shilanyas ceremony for the construction of a center for Buddhist culture and heritage. This project is being developed and built by the India-based International Buddhist Confederation and is located in the West Monastic Zone of Lumbini. Thereafter, in their bilateral talks, the two Prime Ministers will pick up from where they left off in Delhi just last month. The two leaders will build on their productive conversations in Delhi with a view to further expanding our shared understanding and cooperation in multiple areas, including in hydropower development, partnership, and connectivity. In his last official engagement, both Prime Ministers will attend celebrations organized by the Government of Nepal to mark the occasion of Buddha Jayanti, which will see participation by Buddhist monks and scholars. Prime Minister will also address this distinguished gathering at that time. To sum up, the visit will, 1, add to the positive momentum in our bilateral ties generated by high-level exchanges, including by the last visit of Prime Minister Deuba to India in April. And 2, the visit also reaffirms our commitment and demonstrates the priority that Government of India attaches to the neighborhood. We will, of course, share more details on the specifics of the discussions and on the outcomes as the visit unfolds 16th May. Thank you very much and good afternoon once again, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir, for giving us an elaborate overview of the visit. Now I would open the floor for the questions, but let me make one thing very clear that firstly, please restrict yourself to questions related to the visit and bilateral relations with Nepal. Secondly, before making the question, please introduce yourself. It's Foreign Secretary is new. I am also standing in for the regular JSXP. So please introduce yourself, and we will then take questions in groups.
Foreign Secretary, I'm Maha Siddiqui from CNN News 18. Sir, is the Prime Minister taking a chopper directly to Lumbini? Because there have been some media reports in Nepal suggesting that they would have liked him to land at the new second international airport in Nepal.
Hi, sir, Siddhant from Beyond. What kind of conversation will be there between the two prime ministers? Are we looking at some kind of announcements as well, especially on connectivity?
So, Nainima from the print, this will be Prime Minister's first visit since the map issue. Will the border issue be discussed, and will there be any discussions on the EPG report? Thank you.
सर, मेरा नाम सचिन है, मैं यूनिवार्ता से हूँ। मेरा सवाल ये है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी की जब यात्रा के दौरान नेपाल के साथ कुछ हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स के सिलसिले में कुछ नया डेवलपमेंट होने वाला है, कुछ नए साइन होने वाले हैं।
Maybe so we can take these 4 questions and then take the next set of questions.
Okay. Thank you. See, insofar as the questions of the one which was asked by Ms. Mahasidiki and also any other question that might be there in this respect, insofar as the questions relating to the logistical arrangements of Prime Minister's travel are concerned, I don't think it's correct for me or for anybody else to really comment on those issues, because those involve many parameters, including security. With regard to the question that Siddhant, you asked about what kind of conversations will take place and whether issues relating to connectivity will come up or not. As I mentioned to you, that the entire scope and the landscape of India-Nepal partnership is very wide and extensive. You can take any aspect of human economic endeavor and you will find a very robust partnership between India and Nepal in that area. The conversations between the two leaders, as I mentioned, will of course pick up from where they left off last month when Prime Minister Deoba visited here, and would no doubt cover all elements of a bilateral engagement, whether it is development partnership, whether it is the assessment and stock taking of how connectivity projects are doing, what more can be done to connect the two societies of South Asia, and also aspects relating to hydropower cooperation. I mean, that's a question which was specifically asked. Trade investment is another area which is very strong in our partnership. The entire domain of development partnership, which covers cooperation in many areas, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is institution building. So I have a feeling that the conversation between the two leaders will have a comprehensive agenda. It will cover the entire scope of our discussions, and I would not like to single out one area in particular, like you mentioned, connectivity. I think it will touch upon everything. Of course, that would include connectivity. Ms. Nainima, you asked the question relating to the border and the border, whether it will be. You see, insofar as the border discussions, boundary discussions between the two countries are concerned, as you all know, there are established bilateral mechanisms which exist between the two countries. We have always maintained that they are the best way forward in discussing those issues, discussing in a responsible manner without really politicization of those issues. So that is subject which will essentially be in the scope of those established bilateral mechanisms. I think सचिन आपका प्रश्न था कि हाइड्रो पावर को लेके दोनों देशों के बीच में क्या सहयोग को लेके कोई नई घोषणा की अपेक्षा है कि नहीं. देखिए, जो भारत नेपाल के संबंधों में हाइड्रो पावर ऊर्जा का जो स्थान है वो अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण स्थान है. इसके अंतर्गत, जैसे आप भली भांति इससे परिचित हैं, कि भारत ने काफ़ी बड़ी मात्रा में नेपाल में हाइड्रो पावर के क्षेत्र में निवेश किया है. न केवल निवेश किया है, बल्कि हाइड्रो पावर से निर्मित ऊर्जा का जो व्यापार है दोनों देशों के बीच में, वो भी एक व्यापक रूप ले चुका है. चाहे नेपाल से ऊर्जा का निर्यात हो. आपको याद होगा कि पिछले माह जब प्रधानमंत्री देवबा जी की भारत यात्रा थी, उसके दौरान भारत ने लगभग 360 मेगावाट बिजली का नेपाल से भारत के प्रति निर्यात की अनुमति दी थी. चाहे नेपाल से भारत को निर्यात हो, चाहे भारत से नेपाल को निर्यात हो ऊर्जा का, चाहे नेपाल द्वारा निर्मित ऊर्जा का इवैक्यूएशन और नेपाल में भारत के लिए या अन्य देशों के लिए, या नेपाल में अन्य निवेश की परियोजनाएं हों. तो ये हाइड्रो पावर का पूरा क्षेत्र बहुत ही व्यापक है. इस व्यापक क्षेत्र के लगभग हर भाग पे दोनों देशों के बीच में लगातार वार्ता जारी है, और इसी वार्ता का मुख्य अंश ज़रूर दोनों देशों के नेता जब मिलेंगे तो उनकी वार्ता में भी उभर के आएगा. कोई प्रत्यक्ष रूप से अलग से घोषणा होगी कि नहीं, ये कहना मेरे लिए उचित इस समय नहीं होगा.
Foreign Secretary, I'm Suhasini Haidar from The Hindu. In August 2014, when Prime Minister Modi had first gone to Nepal as Prime Minister, he had agreed, and it's in the joint statement, that the eminent persons group would meet and their report would be reviewed. I think Nainima had also asked about that. That report was finalized and presented in July 2018. It's now 4 years later, where even the things that are the points, proposals in the report, such as fencing the border, such as talking about upgrading the India-Nepal Friendship Treaty, none of those have even been discussed, and the report has not actually been presented to the Prime Minister even. Should we assume that the EPG report is now dead in the water?
So, Sridhar from the Asian Age, you mentioned that this is the Prime Minister's 5th visit to Nepal, and you also said it was his first visit to Lumbini. So my question is, why now? What's the? Can you tell us something about the timing, the significance of this visit? Is it part of a Buddhist outreach, because we have similar, facets in our ties with Sri Lanka, also with Myanmar, Thailand, also being in BIMSTEC. So why now? Why is he going to Lumbini after 8 years?
Hello, sir. Rishikesh from Sputnik News. So, did India convey to Nepal that we are not going to purchase your power energy project developed by China? Because this was mentioned recently by Sher Bahadur Devga.
Okay. Thank you.
But
My name is Tripti Nath. I'm a Nepal-born Indian journalist and independent journalist. India put its weight behind Nepal for reconstruction after the 2015 earthquake in a big way. We were the first to respond. I think we said the NDRF. Is Prime Minister Modi likely to get a briefing on reconstruction projects in which India has actively contributed, especially heritage?
yes.
Sir, Ranjana from UNI. So, during the last visit of Prime Minister Devba in April, in the vision statement, there was a specific mention on the Pancheshwar hydropower project that both sides will direct the officials to expedite the report, on that. I don't know, I forget. I mean, basically to take it forward. So has anything happened since then?
So we'll stop here, and Foreign Secretary will respond to these 5 questions.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I think let me first address this question relating to the EPG. I think which was also asked by Nainima, and I'm sorry I forgot to pick up that point there. I think you have obviously read the EPG report, which we have not, because EPG is an independent group of experts, and I'm assuming that only they have access to the report, but perhaps some others also have access to that. All I would say is that EPG report will be reviewed after it is submitted, and it is yet to be submitted. So I think government will take it into consideration once it is submitted. I think the question was, there was another question relating to the, Sridhar asked, I think, this is the Buddhist outreach, Lumbini, why not, etc., etc. You see, when you look at the fundamental construct of our two societies, India and Nepal, the most remarkable thing about it is the shared civilizational heritage and people-to-people linkages. And this is something which Prime Minister has repeatedly emphasized right since his first visit to Nepal in 2014. His subsequent visits have only reinforced that. This time, he's traveling to Lumbini during the Buddha Jayanti, auspicious day of Buddha Jayanti. Buddhism is also a part of our shared civilizational heritage. I would really not see, too much into it as to why now, as if there is a particular motive or a driving force behind it. I think Buddhism is a shared civilizational heritage of our two societies, of our two civilizations. And indeed, this visit, as I mentioned right in the beginning, is a celebration of that civilizational heritage. I don't think you need to really read anything more into that. And if you really want to put a layer of India's neighborhood first policy, combine the two, you have an answer. With regard to the new question from Rishikesh about that India is on the hydropower generation in Nepal and its trade with India. I'm sure you are aware that insofar as energy trade, electricity trade, power trade between Nepal and India is concerned, or indeed for that matter, trade of power with any country in the neighborhood is concerned, it is governed by the CBT guidelines which have been issued by the Ministry of Power. And any decision to import power, to export power, to purchase power takes place under the rubric of those guidelines. Those guidelines are not country specific. They are guidelines which are established for trade. And I don't think those guidelines are very clear. They provide the framework, they provide the structure, they provide details, rules and regulations under which a power from any country can be imported. So those guidelines are very, very explicit about the trade insofar as power sector is concerned. You mentioned about your question relating to the, Mr. Tripti, about your question relating to the cultural heritage project. Reconstruction. If you look at the post-earthquake reconstruction segment of India-Nepal cooperation and partnership, you will find that insofar as reconstruction of those cultural sites which got heavily damaged during the earthquake is concerned, there is a very large bouquet of these projects in which both India and Nepal are currently partnering. And the objective being that these cultural sites, the mutually identified cultural sites, are restored to their previous glory. There are roughly 28 such cultural heritage projects. I think some is in excess of $50 million. So this is a fairly robust and extensive segment of our development cooperation partnership with Nepal, in which the reconstruction element, post-earthquake reconstruction element, plays a very strong role in it. With regard to the question relating to Pancheshwar, I think it was from here. Who asked the question? Sorry, my apologies. On the question of Pancheshwar, you see, the discussions on Pancheshwar are ongoing, and it is our expectation that once the DPR of the project is finalized, the project will be able to move very quickly. During Prime Minister Deoba's visit last month, it was agreed that the two sides would instruct their respective bureaucracies and respective technical experts to expedite this issue and put it on a fast track so that we can move towards finalization of the DPR and the subsequent execution of the project.
Any more questions? So if there are no other questions, we close the briefing today. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.